Please state your name and occupation.
I am Detective M. Nichols, and I am a police officer.
How long have you been a police officer?
Coming up about 15 years now.
What type of training do you have?
So I went to the police academy and I became a police officer, and then I went into further training to become a detective and learn all the detective skills.
What unit are you from?
I'm actually from the homicide unit.
And what do you usually review in this unit?
In this unit, we usually get called upon when there's been a murder or an attempted murder. So I go in and I take pictures of the crime scene, and I talk to witnesses, I talk to people who are involved, etc., etc.
What did you review in this case?
So in this case, I was called to arrest the potential person who did this crime. I also took their phone. I did their interrogation and stuff like that, and took pictures and stuff of the scenes.
Could you describe the investigation you conducted?
Yeah. So I was actually called on the scene, and I took pictures of the evidence stuff on the floor. I talked to people around the crime scene, and I briefly talked to Mr. Carabellion, and I also talked to Dylan Hendricks.
Did you interrogate Mr. Hendricks?
I did. When I talked to him, it was an interrogation. So yes, I asked him many questions.
Why did you interrogate Mr. Hendricks?
I interrogated him because when I was called on the crime scene, as I mentioned, I talked to Mr. Carabellion for a little bit, but after that, he was taken by the medics to get examined. But he was screaming that Mr. Hendricks was the one, so obviously I was a little suspicious and thought it was necessary to go after Mr. Hendricks.
How was Dylan involved with Carmen?
So from what I've heard, from what I've kind of investigated, they had a love affair, the two, behind Mr. Carabellion's back.
Did the defendant tell you how he feels about her?
He did. He actually mentioned in our interrogation that they were in love and that he was willing to do anything for that love and to conclude that.
Your Honor, may I approach the opposing counsel?
You may.
Let the record reflect that I am approaching the opposing counsel with what has been previously marked for identification as Exhibit 23. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Let the record reflect that I am approaching the witness with what has been previously marked for identification as Exhibit 23. What is Exhibit 23?
These look like Tinder messages from Carmen and Dylan.
How do you know that?
So when I interrogated and when I arrested Mr. Hendricks, I actually took his phone. So I know because I actually took these screenshots and I printed them and stuff like that.
Is it a fair and accurate copy?
It is, yes.
We offer Exhibit 23. What do the messages show?
They are what seem to be aggressive messages between Mr. Hendricks and Carmen.
What do the messages talk about?
Well, it's a lot of back and forth about a thing that they talked about that Mr. Hendricks is supposed to do, and Mr. Hendricks tries to say that it's not that easy, and Carmen says that she thinks it's pretty easy, and random emojis that she says that there's a lot of options. And then she says that all that matters is a coffin, and that's pretty interesting.
What do you think it means?
Honestly, as I mentioned, with the whole back and forth and the different emojis that they used, and specifically the coffin, that definitely stood out to me. I believe that this is a plot for a murder.
How do you typically address these cases?
Typically, I like to review everything more than once, and I like to have a group of people who talk about it, and we sit and we talk about it a lot frequently, because I don't want to put someone that's not guilty in trial. However, reviewing this evidence, it definitely seemed different in this case, and we looked through pictures, we talked to people on multiple occasions to conduct this investigation.
How do you come to a conclusion?
Typically, I like to if it's an attempted murder, I like to take the victim's side and what he thinks. And in this case, it was pretty straightforward that he thought that Mr. Hendricks was who tried to murder him.
Overall, what conclusion did you come to?
Overall, after studying all the evidence and talking to everyone, I truly believe that Mr. Hendricks was potentially the murder, like I said, these tender messages were the ones that actually kept me on that case.
No further questions, Your Honor.